admit people, and she will admit people in that's from the waiting room. I'll do a quick introduction. Thank you for those that are on the line already. Please welcome Anthony Skirbo. He's an attorney with the Board of Ethics and Government Accountability with DC government. They serve as an independent agency to administer and enforce DC's government's code of conduct. And he will be presenting information on the Open Meetings Act. And Mr. Skirbo, you are presenting information to the Randolph Shepherd Blind Vendors Committee. They were elected into the various positions that I guess provide guidance to the 19 vendors in totality. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Skirbo.
Ms. Von Roche, can I interrupt you for a second? This is Hazel. We wanted to just maybe go over before you present your speaker. Can we just do our agenda items real quick before you present the speaker?
There are no agenda items for this training. It's just for the Mr. Skirbo to present information that affect the Open Meetings Act. Any agenda items that you have would be in the following hour.
Oh, okay. So we had sent those because the only reason why I asked is because we got a couple of folks that are traveling and they may not be able to. Some of us will attend for the second hour and then some of us may not. So that's why we wanted to present the four items that we had first before at the top of the hour in case they had to leave.
Yeah, I do have the 4 items, and as discussed yesterday and in email correspondence, that will be in the second hour, but not in this hour.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Skirbo.
Okay, good morning. On the basis of the last exchange, I'm intending to go at a good clip. Thank you all for having me this morning. I'm very honored to be presenting to you all. What we will do in the interest of economy of time is I will present verbally. I won't try to share slides or things like that because they're not formatted for, but I will provide a copy of the training material after the event that can be shared and can be, incorporated. The text can be incorporated into text to speech, etc. If there are questions, feel free to interrupt me. I am not bothered or offended, and that's the normal way that I operate. And at the end, I will wrap up, and certainly I will take questions at the end for anybody who has them. So what we're discussing.
Did we do a roll call, Ms. Van Roche? I'm sorry. Did we do a roll call, Ms. Van Roche, to figure out who's on the line?
No, there's no roll call. There are a bunch of phone numbers out there. I have no idea who they are.
Just for BVC purposes to see who's actually attending from our side. Marie, are you on the line?
Yes, Marie Bolden.
Jerome?
Yes.
Okay, Jesse?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, LaShawn?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Marquette?
I'm here.
Okay, and Mario?
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, so to clarify what we're talking about today, we're talking about the Open Meetings Act and the requirements for public bodies. In short, it's DC Official Code Section 2-571, and it's also in the Municipal Regulations 3, Section 10400, and everything that follows. As was mentioned, I'm with the Office of Open Government, which, along with the Office of Government Ethics, are the two offices under the Board of Ethics and Government Accountability. My office interprets and monitors compliance with the Open Meetings Act and trains and provides guidance on the DC Freedom of Information Act. And we advocate generally for government openness and transparency. The Government Ethics Office handles the code of conduct, investigations on ethics, financial disclosure, etc. We're connected, but we're not the same offices. As far as Freedom of Information Act goes, understand that we provide training and guidance, and we're always here to answer questions, but that isn't what we're talking about today. We're talking about the Open Meetings Act. We have the ability to provide formal guidance on compliance with the Open Meetings Act. We do this kind of training and outreach, and we can also enforce the Open Meetings Act on the basis of complaints from the public, vendors, companies, the council, et cetera, up to and including going to Superior Court. That happens extraordinarily rarely, almost never. We always try to work with bodies. So what's known as the preamble in the DC Official Code states that the public policy of the district is that all persons are entitled to full and complete information regarding the affairs of government and the actions of those who represent them. And that's within the Open Meetings Act at 2-572. The Open Meetings Act is stated in the code shall be construed broadly to maximize public access to meetings. Exceptions shall be construed narrowly and shall permit closure of meetings only as authorized by the Open Meetings Act. Now, we'll talk about closure here momentarily. So public bodies are any government council, including the council of the district, boards, commissions, similar entities, including advisory bodies that take official action by the vote of their members convened for that purpose. Now, there are certain specific groups, such as the local courts and ANCs, that are specifically excluded from the OMA. Just an example of types of bodies you may be familiar with: local school advisory teams, the council, boards of directors, the public charter schools, board of trustees, etc. Now, for example, DDS, the staff of DDS, when they're meeting away from the quorum of members of a public body such as this, they're not. The staff, the agencies, district agencies, the mayor's cabinet staff are not subject to the Open Meetings Act. They're normal civil servants and not covered under the act. So there's three sections generally of the Open Meetings Act. The first is talking about what is a meeting. And a meeting's defined by two things. The purpose of the meeting, when it is to perform public business. So for example, a purely social gathering, like you probably had last month, a holiday gathering, where business is not conducted, is not an open meeting, according to the Open Meetings Act. And also the presence of a quorum, the number of participants meeting the definition of a quorum. Those two things are what determine whether a meeting is a meeting under the Open Meetings Act. And all of those meetings, unless specifically and legally exempted, are presumed up front and in advance to be open to the public. And the public has to receive advance notice of the date, time, place, and draft agenda of that meeting. So what makes it a meeting? So a meeting in the law is a gathering of quorum of the public body, formal or informal, regular, special, or emergency, at which members consider, conduct, or advise on public business. And public business includes gathering information, taking testimony, discussing, deliberating, recommending, and voting, regardless of whether it's done in person, by phone, of another form of electronic communication, or online. What a meeting is not, as I said, is not a chance gathering. You run into someone at Costco. It's not a social gathering like a holiday party where no business is discussed. It is not a meeting of a subcommittee, etc., where there's less than the quorum of the full body. So if the full body is 10 people and a quorum is 6, if you have a subcommittee that's meeting with 3 members, that's not an open meeting. However, if the subcommittee meets and three more members show up, so you have six, which is a quorum of the full body, then it becomes an open meeting that has to be noticed and the law applies. Press conferences and email exchanges are not generally open meetings unless you're using email exchanges to get around the act. Like you're discussing and debating and going back and forth among a quorum of the group, then that would in fact possibly trigger the Open Meetings Act. Under normal circumstances, a quorum is a simple majority or more than half, unless your bylaws, the mayor's order, your regulations, et cetera, say otherwise. Normally, it's half plus one. So if, like I say, if there's 10 members, then your quorum normally would be 6 unless you have rules that say otherwise. But according to the Open Meetings Act, a quorum, unless you have rules otherwise, is a simple majority more than half. This type of training that we're doing here as an electronic meeting, or if you all were meeting this way normally, an electronic meeting is allowed by the law. A public body can meet via video conference, phone conference, or other electronic means if, one, reasonable arrangements are made to accommodate the public's right to attend, all meetings and portions are recorded, all votes are taken by roll call, and all the other provisions of the Open Meetings Act are adhered to. Since the pandemic, the majority, I can say easily, and maybe even the large majority of meetings are now conducted either virtually or as hybrid meetings. So, we've run into these scenarios so many times over the last 4 or 5 years that it's entirely common for electronic meetings to be conducted. And again, we generally encounter very few problems. Now, we've talked about meetings. Let's talk about openness and how open is open. Per the Open Meetings Act, meetings must be open to the public unless it permits closure. That means the public can be physically present if it's an in-person meeting or online present if it's a phone or electronic meeting. It means the news media can do the same thing.
Can I just,
Go ahead. I'm sorry, I thought I heard a question. Now, there are several components to this process. The first I mentioned is that it has to be properly noticed. And notice of meetings is arguably the most important aspect of the Open Meetings Act. So for notice, the law requires as much notice as possible, but notice must be given 48 hours or 2 business days before a meeting, each meeting, whichever is greater, either 2 business days or 48 hours. The notice has to be physically posted in the office, in this case, probably DDS's office, but it could be posted in an alternate location if that's the most, commonsensical place to do it, but that it's got to be accessible to the public. And there's 2 other places it has to be posted. It has to be noticed in the DC Register as timely as practicable. And it has to be posted along with a proposed agenda, either on the public body's website, which again would probably fall under DDS, and you all would have a place under their website to post, or you can post it on the district government's what's called central meetings calendar. And we maintain the central meetings calendar, and I'm perfectly happy to work with you all. If you all choose to use the central meeting calendar to provide your notice, we can get somebody set up with an account and show them how to post notice of the meetings. I always recommend doing it in both places. That way the public can always find it, but the law only requires either the body's website or the central meeting calendar. What is notice? Notice has to include certain key pieces of information. It has to include the time, the date, the location, and the planned agenda of a meeting. Now, I mentioned before that we're going to talk in a moment about closed portions. And closed portions, if they're anticipated, if you expect to have to go into a closed session, that has to be included in the notice as part of the planned agenda, and you have to explain what the reason for going into a closed session is. You don't give up confidential information or things like that. You cite to the law And in the presentation I'll be sending to you all, the citations are there and where you would find the reasons. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But you would mention in your agenda that you anticipate having a closed session as part of your meeting. In the notice, you have to include the following statement. That includes all agendas, draft agendas, final agendas. In the agenda, it has to state, quote, "This meeting is governed by the Open Meetings Act. Please address any questions or complaints arising under this meeting to the Office of Open Government at open.govoffice@dc.gov." That's a regulation that requires that statement be included. That way, any member of the public, the press, etc., who's looking at the agenda, observing the meeting, etc., is aware that the Open Meetings Act applies and that they can consult with our office with any issues. As I mentioned before, there's the physical posting requirement. During the pandemic, that was suspended because obviously the public wasn't circulating around in open spaces and going to public buildings. However, as of August of 2023, the requirement to physically post is back. And again, usually the support staff person takes care of that by posting the agenda 48 hours or 2 business days in an office where the public can see it. Now, I talked about in the beginning about what a meeting is: regular, emergency, etc. A regular meeting is one that you notice, that you've planned, that's part of your normal calendar. An emergency meeting is specifically a meeting where something's come up, like the pandemic when it came up, that there isn't time to go through the notice process. Something has added a requirement to have an additional meeting, and it's an emergency. When an emergency meeting is convened, whoever's the presiding officer, the chair, shall open the meeting with a statement explaining the subject of the meeting, the nature of the emergency, and how public notice was provided. Under those circumstances, what you would do is you would just say, "We emailed our members to let them know we were having an emergency meeting. We emailed the secretary's office. We emailed my office. We emailed the members of the public that, have indicated they want to be kept aware of things, etc." And that will meet the requirements of an emergency meeting. You still end up putting in notices to the register, etc., but those don't have to appear before the meeting occurs, especially not in the case of an emergency meeting. Now, let me distinguish. Emergency meetings are not special meetings. A special meeting is just an additional meeting that you add. Okay, we've realized we need to have an additional meeting. We didn't get everything done at our last meeting. We need, instead of, never getting caught up, we want to have an extra meeting. A special meeting is just an extra meeting, but it's not a true emergency. Emergency meetings are only for true emergencies. And legally, those definitions matter. They don't matter so much for you getting your business done. It's just that it matters in terms of how the notice is provided. Now, I was discussing before, we kicked off today, that there were some concerns about information and confidentiality and things like that. I want to now talk about, we've talked about meetings in general, and obviously an open session is that part of a meeting that the public, the press, etc., can observe. Now let's talk about closed portions, or executive sessions, some people call them. Closed portions of a meeting are those that are covered by exceptions in the law. They're carved out, and we'll go over that in a minute, that allow you to go into a separate form of meeting. If you're in a building, for example, you can get up as a group, you can vote to go into closed session, you can stand up as a group, go into another room, close the door, reconvene in a closed session, conduct your closed session business, then vote to go back to open session, get up, go back to the first room, back in front of everybody, reconvene, finish out your open portion of the meeting, and go on. Now, we're going to talk about recording. Both of those things, the open portions and the closed portions, have to be recorded, but they're recorded separately. And that way you can keep the closed portion confidential, and you retain the recording so that if there's a legal question, the Attorney General's office, the Inspector General, my office, we can check to make sure that the legalities were taken care of without exposing the information unnecessarily to the general public. If you're going to have closed session, then your notice has to include, if feasible, a statement of the intent to have a closed session or portion. You have to go to the specific part of the law, 2-575B, and you have to describe generally the matters to be discussed. For example, if you're meeting with an attorney about a legal matter for the committee, then you would say, we're going under 2-575B subsection 4 to consult with an attorney and receive legal advice. And then you would say, on a matter regarding a contract. And that's all you'd have to say. And you would put that in your agenda. But closure in a meeting, meaning going into a closed session, on the agenda and in the meeting has to include the citation to the Open Meetings Act and that description. The chair or the presiding officer has to read that out loud and has to say it before you can have a vote on going into closure. Now let's talk about justifications, reasons for going into closure. My material that I'll provide you all will have the full list and a link to the law, so you can check all of that. Generally speaking, the primary justifications are that a court order or the law requires it. The law requires we're discussing students' personal information. Okay, you can't expose that to the public. You have to go into a closed session for that. Contract negotiations, including preparation or preliminary things or things that involve trade secrets, that's allowed. The attorney-client privilege, like I mentioned. Now, that does not mean an attorney being present is enough. It has to be where you're getting or receiving legal advice, and the privilege, as it's called in the law, applies. In the case of the pandemic, for example, where public health or safety and disclosure would endanger the public, when the pandemic first broke out, there were discussions of the public health crisis, and bodies that covered that were allowed to have closed sessions because they didn't want to endanger the public with certain information. You don't want to prevent premature disclosure of an award. The body's going to issue an award to somebody, and they don't want it to get out before the group's ready to announce the award or present the award. Certain administrative information that deals with students, exams, students' personal information, things like that. And as I say, what I send you will include the full list, although in many cases they just don't apply to all but one or two bodies. As I said, to go into a closed session, you establish your quorum, you open your public part of your meeting, you do your business or part of your open business. You then make a motion to move into the executive session. You have the roll call vote. You agree to go into the closed session. You make the reference. You go into closed session. You do what you're planning to do and record separately. You come back out, and then you finish recording the open portion again. You pick up the recording of the open portion and keep that separate. And then, you do whatever else you need to do, and then you adjourn. It sounds clunky, but it's actually, once you've done it once or twice, it's a very easy process. Virtually, you just go into a separate Zoom or a separate WebEx or a separate Teams or what have you. And that way, again, you have separate recordings, and the public's not in the closed portion. And then you just come back to the open portion, Zoom or WebEx or Teams or whatever you're using. Electronic recording is still obligatory in the closed session, as I said. Now, I've mentioned recording several times. There is audio recording, for example, in the case of a phone conference. There's video recording in the case of a meeting like this.
25 sides. No.
I thought these were 135.
I'm getting a feedback. Is anybody else getting that?
Mute your phone.
Yes.
Mute.
Vendors, please put your phones on mute. Thank you.
Okay, I think that took care of it. And then additionally, some bodies do this, some bodies don't. They can provide an actual transcript. They can hire a transcription service, etc. But the other thing is to do detailed meeting minutes. When I say detailed meeting minutes, I don't mean the Great American Novel. What I mean is a description of the day, time, location, which is already in your agenda, each vote that was taken, each matter that was discussed at any length, things like that. And that way you have it in case the recording doesn't work was lost, etc. Because again, the public has the right to request minutes of the open portion of your meetings, just like they have the right to record recordings of the open portion of your meetings. Now, the law is located in this case at 2-578, and it says that all meetings shall be recorded, both open and closed sessions. And those records, and records means the minutes and the recordings, are available for public inspection. In the case of minutes, it's as soon as practicable, but no later or no longer than 3 business days after the meeting. And the full record, which includes the audio or video recordings, as soon as practicable, but no later than 7 business days after the meeting. Now, 9 times out of 10, the minute you go out of a meeting like the training we're in right now, they turn off the recording. 10 minutes later, they have a copy of the recording. So providing a link or a copy to that is no problem at all. So in most cases, this is not a challenge. If you keep the minutes and someone is tasked with keeping the minutes during the meeting, and obviously you have to take at least notes to have accurate minutes, usually within a day, having the minutes ready is not a problem. And if at any time anybody wants help preparing the minutes or preparing a template to make keeping the minutes easier, feel free to reach out and contact me. I'm happy to help. I deal with all the public bodies, so I'm very familiar with this. As far as the records themselves, we just talked about you have to have them and provide them on the basis of request from the public or from the government. The requirements in the law require that unless you have special rules, then the normal District of Columbia General Record Schedule, says that all meeting recordings are maintained by the public body for a minimum of 5 years. So if you have recordings or minutes that are older than 5 years, unless you have special rules, at that point you can deal with the archives, and they can either be archived or gotten rid of. But the minimum requirement is 5 years under normal circumstances for maintaining the records. This comes up a lot. I don't know if it comes up for you all, but it comes up with a lot of public bodies. The Open Meetings Act does not, I repeat, does not have a requirement for public comment. The Open Meetings Act requires that the public be allowed to observe and/or attend a meeting. It does not require that they be given the opportunity to provide comment. Your bylaws or the mayor's order or statutes may require it. I don't know in the individual case of individual public bodies, but the OMA does not require allowing public comment. You may allow public comment unless there's a statutory requirement to not do so or to do so. And if you do allow it, you have the right to regulate the amount of time in a meeting that public comment is going to occur and how much time each person would have, for example. That is entirely your business and has to do with your bylaws. It has nothing to do with the Open Meetings Act or my office. So when people contact me and go, I was at a committee meeting and they didn't let me talk. Well, as far as I'm concerned, they're not required to let you talk. They may have laws that require them to let you talk, in which case they have to go to the Inspector General or the Attorney General's office, etc. But if you have rules and you normally allow public comment, as long as you're equal and fair and apply the rules the same for everybody at all times, that's your affair. And like I say, we don't get involved. But no public comment period is required by the OMA or our regulations. And again, if you have questions offline about that, feel free to contact me. When a meeting gets canceled, you're not going to have a quorum. There's an emergency. There's a weather emergency like there was a week ago. A meeting cancellation is just what is called a change in schedule. And cancellation follows the same rules as posting or noticing a meeting. No less than 48 hours to 2 business days. And what you would do is you would post a new notice saying the meeting is canceled or the meeting is canceled and going to be rescheduled, whatever, works in the circumstance. And again, it would be posted in the public place by the office, it would be posted online, and it would be posted in the register, just like a notice of a meeting. So cancellation is the same steps over again to let the public know, hey, don't jump through hoops to attend because we're not having this meeting. Rescheduling a meeting, again, you would just post a new notice with the new date, the new time, 48 hours or 2 business days, the register online and in the office. Same rules apply. So the steps are the same, whether it's a posting an original meeting, a cancellation, or a rescheduled meeting, it's all the same. Now, I don't know how you all are governed. I don't know if you have specific bylaws or if you were created by a mayor's order or what have you. My office has, for free, available online, parliamentary procedure training that is specifically geared toward smaller bodies that is available. So we can provide advice and training on parliamentary procedure and give you access to the what's called Robert's Rules Made Simple training anytime you'd like. So again, feel free to reach out to me or my office and say, I'm interested in, the free parliamentary procedure training, and we'll provide you access to the online portal. And you can take it and you get a certificate at the end of completion and, the whole 9 yards. But it really is useful, especially for younger bodies that don't have members that are, highly experienced in parliamentary procedure, or if there are disagreements about how parliamentary procedure should be conducted, that training really is frequently helpful. Additionally, if the presiding officer or the staff support folks want help in coming up with sort of a script that a presiding officer can sort of follow that keeps them in line with the law, the Open Meetings Act, parliamentary procedure, et cetera, I'm happy to work with someone to develop a script that meets the specific needs of your public body to make running meetings more smooth, more effective, and compliant. Happy to do it. Obviously, I was introduced by one of our 2 administrative points of contact from the staff side. We normally conduct our communication with public bodies through the staff, the support staff, the administrative point of contact. It's just easier, us all being district employees. We're all in the same email system, things like that. If that person changes, we do ask that you let us know and keep us up to speed so we can quickly and effectively communicate with whoever is handling sort of support of the public body. If anybody needs access to the central meeting calendar, as I say, contact my office and we'll get somebody set up with an account and the training material. It's not hard. It's a fairly simple process. I think most people learn it in 10, 15 minutes. And that way you can post your materials and meet the notice requirements. Now, if we do receive complaints about the conduct of meetings by a public body, an aggrieved party in the district can be anybody. It can be an anonymous party. It can be somebody who's complaining about a meeting that happened. It can be somebody who's complaining about a meeting that's gonna happen. They can contact us and say, I have evidence to show or a reason to believe that on Thursday next, this public body is conducting this meeting and they're planning to not notice the public. They've not met the notice requirement, or they're going to discuss something in closed session that they're not supposed to, et cetera, et cetera. My office then investigates. The director of open government, my boss, may seek to resolve the complaint by conciliating with the parties and mediating. She can dismiss the complaint if she chooses to. She can release what's called an advisory opinion or take other steps. And those other steps could include, again, bringing suit in DC Superior Court. That has happened once that I'm aware of in 11 years or 12 years. It is extraordinarily rare. It is not something to be hung up about or worry about. It's just something I do want you all to be aware of because, again, it is part of the overall process. As far as information, in the material I'm sending you, there is a link to my website, which has recordings. It has links to our YouTube page. It has prior trainings that we've given and recordings that you can watch and or listen to. I send you a link to what's called our OMA compliance checklist, which is a handy way to just go down and make sure that the meeting is going to be compliant. I'm including links to the DC official code, which is the actual um, codified law of the district, and the DC municipal regulations, which is the regulations promulgated in the district. I'm also going to provide information on my entire office. So everybody from our open mailbox and our main number and my director to my chief counsel, the legal staff I work with, and our IT specialist, in case you have issues specifically with the website. That's all included and linked. And with that, I'm open to take any questions that you all may have.
Hello, this is Marquette Henderson. And is it acceptable to use, when we have our meetings, sometimes it's, how can I say this? It almost seems like this recordings are time sensitive because when they're sent to us, they work normal or like they're supposed to. But then when you refer back to them maybe a month or two later, they're no longer there. It's like they have been erased or deleted. And a few of us have had that problem from open meetings that we had. I think it was not the previous one, but the one before. And some of us had them sent to us. But when we had to research something that was talked about in the meeting, basically the recordings were no longer there, and we could not review what it was we were looking for. Is that acceptable, or that's something? Well, first of all, who's responsible for something like that that would occur, and what is supposed to be done about it if it does happen?
Okay. I'm going to repeat back what I heard just to make sure I've got all the points of your question. You all have meetings. The open sessions are recorded, the closed sessions are recorded. At some point after those meetings, a member of the group or a member of the public requests access to one or more of the recordings. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, or sometimes it happens and then you go back to the recording and it's no longer available. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So in order, I'll take your last question first. The body, in this case, the committee and the agency are jointly responsible for ensuring that recordings happen, that there is sufficient, online or whatever, videotapes, audio tapes, however you record your meetings, and it's usually electronic at this point via computer. The body and the agency are jointly responsible for making sure that there is sufficient resources to record and preserve those recordings. And if you have a challenge with that, then the agency would go to OCTO, the Office of the Chief Technology Officer, for a solution. Once the meetings are recorded, it is the agency or public body, depending on who has the resources, it's usually the agency's responsibility to maintain those recordings. Whether a member of the public body requests it or a member of the public requests it, those have to be available upon request. They don't have to be posted. We encourage you to post them to make it easier on everybody. But if they're not posted, then anytime a request is received, that request has to be fulfilled. So if for some reason you go back and a recording you've already seen isn't available, that is a violation. That is something that we would look into or try to resolve. Now, as far as open versus closed, you all, as members of the public body, should have access to both your open recordings and your closed recordings. On the other hand, a member of the public does not per se have the right to just say, I want to hear their closed recording. That's not the reason. The whole reason the law has exemptions for closed session is to prevent, disclosure of either privileged or confidential information. If my office receives a complaint then I can look at the closed recording and say either, yes, there was a violation, or no, there wasn't a violation, and that's sufficient. But members of the public body or the staff that supports should be able at any time for a minimum of 5 years to be able to access all recordings, and the public should be able to access or request all open recordings. Does that answer your question?
Mr. Anthony,
Yes.
this is Charliza Payne.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry. This is Charliza Payne. I am the executive assistant here at DDS.
Sure.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the gentleman's name that posed this question, but I did just want to add a comment or response from the agency standpoint. I have recently just come on board with Assistant Ms. Sharon since she took over this role with the BVC. So I'm only speaking from the start of her tenure, but all of the BVC meetings that she has hosted has been recorded under the Zoom platform. We as the agency do house those recordings on our agency drive if we need to refer back to those. And typically, I personally send the recording links with the passcode to Ms. Sharon. And I'm not sure if that is what he is referring to as far as them receiving the recordings where they can see them sometimes and then they go away. The recordings have been held in the Zoom platform, and the recordings are typically saved to the cloud. Whereas if for some reason the cloud is overloaded for space wise, or I think Zoom may be set up for a certain time period where a recording possibly may be deleted, we do go in and download that recording, like I said, and save it on our agency files, so that if needed, we can refer back to it. If you receive the recording via email with the link and the password, you can pull it up and you can watch it at that time. It is strongly suggested if you are capable of doing so to download that recording for your records as well. There should be an option within those recordings when you're viewing it to download it. That would allow you to save it to your computer, or if the BVC has their own files that they're storing these recordings, that they can save it at that time. So if need be, if you have a problem with accessing the recording, you can reach out to the agency and we can figure out whether either to send it in a zip file. Normally those MP4s are large files, so sometimes it's hard to send it as an attachment, but we can possibly send it via a zip file or work out some type of intranet option where they could be posted online, but I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm kind of new to this group, so I'm not sure if these meetings are meant to be like public, like on our website, or if they need some type of a special domain where only, you all can access it. But it would be my suggestion, if possible, to either download the recording when you're viewing it and save it to your personal files, or reach out to the agency who should be able to provide you that recording if needed.
And that is exactly what you just said. And I'll only make a couple of points. That is exactly how it's supposed to operate. It is requested by my agency where possible that links to open sessions of meetings be provided online without then having to be requested. Closed sessions definitely should be hosted somewhere where they're only available to the members of the public body or the agency, or upon request by the legitimate person, by me, the Attorney General's office, a member of the BVC, a member of DDS who has support oversight, that sort of thing. Absolutely, that's exactly how that should work. Now, the one thing I will say, you mentioned both Zoom and the cloud. Many of the platforms, WebEx, Zoom, etc., have their own time limits on retention of material, and that has nothing to do with the district's requirements. of say 5 years. In some cases, for example, now it's 2 with, I think, WebEx. So yes, all meetings by the agency need to be downloaded to a server, to a file location, not just on the cloud, for preservation of records. Um, if they're not, if you don't have the bandwidth, say on the website to post all the links, whatever, that's, that's understandable and can be dealt with, down the road. But if a member of the public or a member of the BVC wants any recording of any meeting for at least 5 years, either a link, as you said, or if the member wants to bring in a blank thumb drive or a blank disk, as long as that's accommodated, the law doesn't say you have to instantly provide me with an MP4 file by email. As Charlisa mentioned, those files are extraordinary, even zipped. Those files are very large, and most email systems, including the districts, will not support emailing files that large. We face this all the time. So links to a cloud-based solution are normal, but if somebody doesn't have that ability, or again, if something, if somebody's got a technical challenge and wants to say provide a thumb drive or whatever, that's fine as well.
So,
This is
Ms. Sharon.
LaShawn.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just LaShawn. Miss Hazel said that she is muted. So she just wanted me to let y'all know that. So somebody muted her, I guess.
Yeah, I don't have audio X controls, so I'm not sure.
I think Hazel muted herself because I think it was her phone that we was hearing the feedback from, and she was asked to mute whoever it was, to mute their phone, and I think it was her.
This is Hazel. I'm on my other phone, but the actual phone that I was on, it said that I was muted when you started to ask your question, Marquette. But I'm on another phone now, so
Okay.
I'm not muted anymore. Thank you. I did have a question.
Yes.
Somebody had one before me. Somebody had one before me.
I wanted to finish up what I was saying. This is Marquette Henderson, for the young lady who didn't know who I was. But we had a discrepancy about something that the director had told us to correct that was done wrong or illegally, as we believed. And then when we went back, he later walked it back and said he didn't say for us to correct the wrong that was done. And he said that to the promotion and transfer committee chair. But in any case, when we went back to review what he said, so we could bring it to his attention, because now it's a big problem that we're in OAH hearing because of we could not review this this recording that we asked to be sent to us individually, and it's a problem that could be straightened if we could get this recording and allow him to review it and what he said, and we did what he said, and then he walked it back. So now we're in a confusing situation because of it. So we can receive this recording that we had, and if so, then that would be great.
Do you have the date of that meeting that you're referring to, of the recording that you are missing? Do you remember the meeting date?
If anybody on the phone can assist me and remember, LaShawn, do you remember the date that he told us to correct what was wrong? And
I think it was May or June. I want to say it was May or June. And I
Yeah, it was
corrected
the
it
very
in
first
July.
meeting we had.
So can I ask a question either to you all as the BBC or Ms. Sharon? The meetings that I've scheduled for you all, the BVC meetings, are these meetings considered that you're having, are these considered under the open meetings, or are these considered the closed meetings? Just to know how I can go about making these accessible. So would these meetings be considered closed or would they be considered open? If they are considered open, where it's okay for this to be able to be accessed publicly, we can try to get something set up on our website, possibly where these meeting recordings can be stored, or try to work with you all to figure out the best way to, kind of make this easily accessible for you all. But I know Mr. Anthony spoke on what is allowed and what isn't allowed based off whether it's an open or closed session.
Well, honestly, I don't know whether they're open or closed. We're under the assumption that they are closed meetings, but instead of it just being the BVC members and maybe Ms. Sharon or whomever else in DDS attending, it sometimes are other people that that makes it open, and we don't know what they are. At least I don't know what they were. So I assumed they were supposed to have been closed because they were just for the BVC committee.
Hi, this is Hazel. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Our meetings are, the BVC meetings are accessible. They should be accessible to the other vendors who are not on the BVC committee. And so a portion of those meetings, we have maybe been doing it wrong because we need to go into a closed session if we're discussing somebody's personal situation, like we was telling Ms. Von Roche yesterday, that that's when we should go into a closed session to talk about their situation. But for the most part, the general body of the meeting or what we're talking about is supposed to be accessible to the other vendors for the young lady that just came on board. So if we can work on that, that would be putting us in compliance.
If I can make a suggestion, what I would suggest is I'm here today in a training function, and I'm happy to provide support or guidance in any way going forward. But what I might recommend is, since I know you all are going to have the second hour, if you all want to interface with each other, discuss this, look at it, and then if any member of the BVC, DDS, et cetera, wants to reach out, we're available. As I say, I'm going to send a copy of the material, and you all can look at the material. And then if there are any questions, we're always here. But that'll give you all a little time to discuss, look at it, figure out where you're at. As it stands right now, I'm here as a trainer. I'm happy to answer questions, but my office hasn't received any complaint or anything else. So if you all want to take a look at the material and discuss it amongst yourselves, anytime you want to feed back to me or reach back out, I'm happy to be available.
Okay.
Thank you.
My
I
apologies.
think that's a
Thank you.
great idea. This is Sharon Von Roche of the SLA/DDS. I think that's a great idea before making comments that we haven't had a chance to review the information.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I say, I'm not going anywhere unless you all know something I don't. I'm not going anywhere, and I'm happy to be accessible and available. But this will give you all time in your next hour to take care of your 4 points of business. And then once you all have had a chance to discuss, feel free. Anybody in any party is always free to reach out to us. But unless there are additional questions specifically about the OMA, and if there are, I'm happy to take them. I will, I'll remove myself and let you all get to your business, so that the folks who are traveling, et cetera, can go on.
Thank you very much, Anthony. We appreciate your presentation, and we will get back to you accordingly.
My pleasure. I look
I
forward
had
to.
one more question for Anthony, if you don't mind. I had one more question. I'm sorry.
Okay.
The training, most of the meetings are set up some way by parliamentary rules with Robert's Rules of Order. So did you say there's a link for us to be able to take the training for Robert's Rules of Order? Because I think that's very important. Because
Yes,
our
I
meetings
can.
are small and not large meetings. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I will include in the material I send a QR code and the website. And then I will include the contact information for the person. You would either go to the QR code or you would send an email to the person who runs Robert's Rules Made Simple, their IT person. And I will let them know to expect emails from one or more of you. And as I say, you can set up accounts. To take the training for free and get, the training. Did that answer it?
Yes, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I looked up my records of the recordings, and I only have records dating back to August. I have an August, a September, and an October meeting recorded before today. So I'm not sure who might have been handling the recordings prior to that, but my records only go as far back as September of 2024.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, once again, thank you all. I'm going to let you all get on about your normal business. I'm available, and I will forward to the director and Charlisa my material here probably just after lunch, and then they can forward it on to you all. And as I say, my contact information will be part of it.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
Thank
you all,
you.
and have a great day.
Okay. So to continue our meeting, first I wanted to introduce Nicole Green, who has replaced Jasmine Jackson as the new, I gotta make sure I get this right. I wrote it down somewhere. As the new business,
Services Unit Supervisor, correct?
Thank you very much, Nicole. I was trying to find, I don't want to quote somebody's title incorrectly, but yes, replacing Jasmine Jackson, and will be providing the financials that were captured and are captured from the operations unit. And if there are no objections, I know you all always wait for those reports. I'd actually like for her to give that report first before we go into the BVC's 4 questions.
Thank you for that, Ms. Sharon. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nicole Green, and as Ms. Sharon stated, I am the new Business Support Services Unit Supervisor for DDS. I am pleased to present the final FY24 BVC reporting for October 1st, 2023 through September 30th, 2024, as well as the BVC reporting for FY25 Q1, October 1st, 2024 through December 30th, 2024. Unfortunately, my supervisor, Ms. Antoinette Alexander, is unable to join the call today. If there are any questions that cannot be answered on this call, I will ensure that the questions are documented and escalated up to Ms. Alexander to address. So thank you, guys. So for the BVC reporting from October 1st, 2023 through September 30, 2024, the FY24 year-end assigned and unassigned vendors revenue was $1,675,817.80. Next line item I have are assigned vending payments through September 2024. That revenue was $879,341.70. The unassigned vending payments through September 2024 revenue is $747,612.13. For the management services, it's $67,700 $67,758.83. With those combined numbers is $1,694. I'm sorry, $1,694,712.66. We had a one payment carryover of $18,894.86. We also collected a total levy set aside amount of $206,533.40. Our year-to-date expenditures paid against the set-aside journal entry for local POs was $150,000 with a carryover for set-aside of $56,533.40. So the local year-end expenditure paid against POs paid under local was $235,139.74. So that was an overview of the FY24 BVC reporting. If no questions, I'm going to move on to the FY25 Q1 reporting. Okay, so the BVC reporting, and like I stated before, for October 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024, the FY24 overpayment carryover is the negative, and I'm sorry, I have to go back to FY24, so that was a negative. That carryover was a negative $18,894.86. So correction. So the FY24 overpayment carryover is a negative $18,894.86. My apology for that. And next, I'm gonna go on to the FY25 year-to-date received and assigned and unassigned vendors. That total is $385,259.87. The assigned vending payments through December is $235,649.52. The unassigned vending payments through December is $149,610.35. For the management services year to date is $7,829.35. We also have pending quarterly payments due in the amount of $149,610.35 equals $7,874.23 per vendor. Next, we have the FY25 year-to-date total levy collected, which is the set aside, is $45,734.83. At this time, there's no maintenance of equipment. And lastly, we have local year-to-date expenditures paid against POs paid under local totaling $37,483.23. And that completes my overview for final 24 and Q1 FY25.
This is Marie Bolden. I would like to thank you for that detailed report.
Thank you. Yes, I was thinking the same thing. This is Jessie Pettaway. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That's very good compared. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Do we get a copy of that report? Are you sending that to us in some form? Hello?
Yeah, we're supposed to get a copy of it.
I must have. Did I miss the fact that you're going to send those numbers, those documents to us, or?
No, you did not. When Ms. Antoinette gets back, I'll make certain that this information is shared with everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Nicole, for the detailed report. And I guess this allows us to move on to the BVC's questions. So the first question that I have on here is vending commission. Can somebody from the BVC elaborate what you mean by vending commission?
Yes, I will. First thing is the vending commission coming out. Maybe with the new employee, there things will be different now because the vending commission coming out anytime it wants to, we get somewhat confused of what we're paying for, and there's no dates on the P&L. So that is what we were asking for. You know, we just don't know what month we're paying levy for or when it's due or anything, because it comes out, the vending commission and the reports come out anytime it so desires. So we were wondering if maybe it will be corrected now. And I think, Jesse, is that what you were talking about, the dates that was not on the P&L?
Okay, I had to walk away, but basically, during some time in the past, say for instance, we would get a report of vendor commission. It would give us the month of that vendor commission. Without that month of what period that is, we have no way of really keeping track on what money is for what. So it would be helpful if we could, if when you say vendor commission, put down the month that vendor commission is for. That way we can go back and track if we need to.
And maybe if you could make sure that we get our vending commission report around a certain date and the money around a certain date, so we could keep up with what month we paying levy for or whatever. And I'm gonna have to call you because I'm kind of confused with mine. So that is what that was about. Unless someone else has something to add to it.
I would like to add. Is there supposed to be a day? I mean, because we're supposed to submit our profit and loss report by the 6th working day of the month. And is there supposed to be a day that we should get our report, our vending report, and a certain time of the month that we also should receive our commissions and our unassigned? Because, you know, like people are indicating, we have bills to pay that come in at a certain time. And if we're supposed to get our commissions, which, you know, some of us may use to buy inventories or et cetera, and it doesn't come until the following month, then basically it's causing us problems. So I just like to know if there's a certain day or a week that we should receive our reports and we should receive our commissions.
Okay. Nicole?
Unfortunately, I don't have those answers today. I know the commission reports are due by the 16th of the month, but as far as the payment, I will have to get back to you guys regarding that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So, and I'm sorry I don't have the answers for you, but I will turn that question around and you will have a response soon.
Okay.
And that's only fair. Nicole's only been here like a couple of weeks, so she has to take the information, i.e. the questions, and then work through this with her boss, Miss Alexander.
Okay. We understand that, and she's doing well so far.
That's great.
Von Roach.
Okay. The next question is,
hello?
why did the
Hello?
SLA hold our money so long?
Ms.
So,
Sharon, I think someone was trying to comment from the
Hello?
last.
oh, I'm sorry.
This is Hazel. I wanted to ask the new finance man. What's your name again? I'm sorry.
Nicole
Our new
Green.
finance technician.
Nicole.
Nicole, right. Yeah, I can't
Mhm.
remember that. My niece's name is Nicole.
Mhm.
Nicole, if we have questions and things like that, do we email you, and can you provide that email to all the vendors so they'll know a point of contact? Because what they do is they call us, just like we got a call yesterday. Where's my vending commission check? Where's my, pension check? So, we can't field those kind of calls, but you certainly would have more of a handle on that than we would. So we get a lot of calls all the time from vendors about where's this, where's that. So, and we don't really know. So, you know what I'm saying? We need a point of contact, which would be you in terms of, to field some of those questions.
Yes, thank you for that. And yes, once and Miss Alexander shifts everything over to me or transfers everything over to me, then we'll provide an update and send out a correspondence to state the who, the what, the where. So yes. So hopefully it'll be
Thank you.
within the next few days. So, but hopefully I'll give you
Oh,
a
great.
response between today and tomorrow.
This is Jessie. May I ask a question, please?
Yes.
I'm located at Boulder Air Force Base, and I'm wondering, on other vending commission, we get a breakdown of all the vending commission. Say, for instance, machinery, how much was here collected on the 4th floor, 2nd floor, whatever. I've never gotten that breakdown at Bowling Air Force Base. Even when we were all getting vending from the same company, I've never been privileged to that information, and I'm just trying to figure out why is that so. I basically would get an amount, and that would be pretty much it. It's not telling me anything. And I'm just
Okay.
wondering, why is there a difference?
I will have to research that information for you and
Okay.
get back to you. So that way, like different people have different vending services. So I don't know like all the details. So once I flush out this information, I will make certain that I will reach out to you and give you a detailed explanation as to why, or to answer your why.
Okay. Okay. And I will say that I do not have the same vending service as the rest of my colleagues have at this time, but prior to that, say prior to late 22, I did have the same vending service, but I was still never privileged the information because I was receiving a breakdown from another location that I was running, but never at Bowling Air Force Base.
Okay, my apology for that, and I will work to resolve this.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Nicole, I had one last question. There was, this is Hazel at the State Department. Across the street from me is the Red Cross building. They just put a new micro market in there. I sent Miss Alexander an email asking her, to try to access that information to make sure that that's included in my vending commission, and I haven't seen it as of yet. So could you just like remind her of the inquiry that I asked about?
Yes, I sure will. Thank you for that. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Ms. Von Roach, you ready to proceed with the next two?
Sure. So the next question was, why did the SLA hold our money so long? So could someone elaborate on that?
I think we went over that with Nicole a few minutes ago. I think she kind of answered that question. Do you guys think she did or not? I think she did.
I think she did, yeah.
Okay. So I guess the question really originated, Ms. Von Roche, from some of the vendors at large and wanted to know, because let me just say, historically, when someone else was doing it, we got our vending commissions on at the exact same time, got the reports at the exact same time, so I guess we were kind of used to that, and now there's kind of like a sporadic thing going on with how we're getting it, the payments and stuff like that. But maybe now, with the introduction of the code, things will smooth out.
Okay, all right, moving on to the third question. Why did operations need our 2023 reports? So I can start off some of the response to this. They Operations is working on completing the RSA 15 reports for last year accountability. And so they needed documentation in order to complete specific areas of the RSA 15 report to account for the actual activities that occurred from October 2023 through September 2024. And so that was an ask for those reports. Again, Antoinette would be the best person to provide all of the details on that. So
Aren't those reports computerized or something? I don't understand if we sent in our reports October 23 and November, December. It seems like the agency should have those reports on file somewhere, computerized or paper-wise. I mean, we just don't understand why they're not there and they have to be requested again.
Unfortunately, those reports went through so many hands, and the person that you guys used to work with is no longer here. So, I mean, not no longer here, no longer in operations. So, trying to comb through data that, that's we no longer have because it's the age of it. So I understand like saving it to a file that we can always reference, but unfortunately something got lost in translation. So I know I contacted a few of the vendors to follow up per Ms. Antoinette's email. So our apologies again. So hopefully we're trying to right size that. So my hope is that we're not going to have to reach out again because as of today, we have all the information that we need to move forward.
Did you get every vendor sent in those 3 months or just some?
You know what, I would have to follow up with Antoinette to make certain.
Yeah.
This is Miss Padaway Brooks. I'd like to make a comment. I'm happy that you all, I'm hoping that you all will move forward and hold on to information that that you received. Because say if something were to happen and let's just say, for instance, like me, my house was burglarized. So I lost a lot of my information. And I have the problem with internal revenue. So I have to come back to you for that information. And it's not there. Things like that. And matter of fact, I pointed this out to someone who was working in your position at a time ago. That was very important because I even got in trouble with the district government because when they changed hands paying taxes, they put lien against all my property because they said my taxes were paid. But luckily, I keep receipts, and I was able to prove it. So even today, I have to keep this paper with me to show that this was an error. This lien was an error. So that's why it's important that you keep documents for a person who may be coming in behind you, that they can carry forward with whatever vendors may need, hopefully. If, if for some reason those documents are misplaced or lost or destroyed.
Agreed. Moving forward, we house all of our information on a protected site. So yes.
Thank you.
Yep, and our apologies again.
Okay, so well, we'll just move on to your next question. It says, what is the resolution for the Switzer building? So I want to talk in generality because this is something that I'm instituting for all of the facilities. And I just don't want to zero in on one particular one. So we have commenced in monthly facility evaluations, and we are documenting all of the findings, and we are storing that information in a centralized place. So that way, when the call down assessments commence again, we will be able to retrieve that information to support what goes on the call downs, and in addition to using seniority, and also the information, the evaluations will be used to support if there is any needed disciplinary action as well. So I'm saying all of this. This is something that I said when I started 6 months ago, is that documentation is key, which now, based on your questions prior to this last one, in order to support our actions going forward.
Well, Ms. Van Roach, when you sent an email to the committee, you asked us to meet with you all as soon as possible. And we did that the next day. Now, the committee's understanding is what happened over at the Switzer building was going against the rules of the Randolph-Shepherd program with the analyst and the vendor. Mind you that this vendor has had problems before, and nothing was done. Then the committee asked, you were supposed to get back with the committee and tell us what or whatever to come to some kind of solution. You never did. We sat and we waited and we waited, and I feel like that was total disrespect to the committee for this not to have happened. Now, whatever solution that came up for that vendor, it should have been between the BVC and the program manager. And none of this was related to the BVC. We never knew exactly what happened with this vendor and the analyst, who evidently was not in compliance of his job or the program. So when we asked for those questions, the BBC had the right to ask for those questions. Those were very important questions for any vendor. Do they have their insurances up to date? Is their sales tax up to date? Those are important questions for any vendor. So when we asked for those questions, we were asking, because with that snack bar over there, it don't belongs to Miss Miles or Mr. Benesola. It belongs to all of us vendors. And I think what happened with that was really not respectful to the committee. I mean, we had the right to know what the agency did to put all this in order. Miss Miles know better. She's a vendor. She's been a vendor for years. So she knew better in what she was doing there. And also, Caleb knew better. So we want to know exactly what action did you all take against these two people, the vendor and the analyst.
Okay,
May I make a
so
suggestion,
I'm
Ms.
gonna
Monroe?
have to go
Monroe?
back and find the email that I sent to all of you in regards to next steps and addressing the issue. And I know I did send an email because I had a conversation with Mr. Andy Reese on next steps on this. So I did address it, but I will just say overall, because I do not want to get into someone's personal business on this call, but we did speak with the individual. We did do an evaluation, a performance evaluation. It has been documented, and we are collecting information as we go forward to determine what else would and if needed to be done.
But I think
Ms.
you did
Ms.
send an
Von
email
Roos,
out. You stated in the email that you and I called Mr. X had resolved that issue. I remember that email. So,
Ms. Von Roos,
Make a
can I,
suggestion. Make
can
a
I- can I-
suggestion. Excuse me. I
can-
asked the floor. I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
Maybe you didn't hear me, but I did.
Go
My
ahead.
suggestion, Ms. Von Roach, is that you meet with the BVC. And since this is, again, like I told you yesterday, a sensitive nature because it involves a vendor, we should do a closed session and discuss this, not on this platform, because there's a lot of other information that, you know, you may want to share, and there's a lot of other information that we need to share to you, but it does not need to be in this platform. It has to be another type of meeting, as your colleague just trained us on, but we was telling you this from the very beginning. So I think I'm going to make a suggestion to my colleagues that we have a separate meeting with you in regards to this issue.
I appreciate that. And also, yeah, I appreciate that. This is not the forum for this.
now this,
Well, it is
my
not.
understanding was just supposed to be the BVC and the SLA, so I was informed wrong about this form that's here today then. Okay.
Well, no, Marie, no. The thing is that, and pardon me if you mind me speaking for you, we never received any type of explanation, Ms. Von Roach. We received a very generic reply. So if you guys are conducting an investigation, if you guys are being very thorough, which I'm hoping that you are, because this is a very sensitive nature. So maybe in a closed session, we can talk about what happened. The reason it ended up on the agenda was because we didn't hear anything.
And I'd like to respectfully add, you know, the BVC we've been voted in to represent the vendors. And it's like we have been excluded from doing what we were elected to do. And it seems like the agency has decided to take things in their hands and do things their way, and eliminating our responsibilities and how we're supposed to handle it, because we're supposed to work together at recognizing what was done and how it's supposed to be dealt with, not the agency by itself. We're supposed to govern ourselves and recognize what was done and why it was done and what should be done about it, and make recommendations to the agency and how we've evaluated and what our findings were. And you guys have taken that from us, and it wasn't designed to be done the way this was done. And it's not just this, it's another situation as well, that basically the BVC has not been respected in what we're supposed to, our duties. So that's all I wanted to add.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments, and yeah, we can deal with this in another forum.
Okay.
Are there any other issues from anybody on the line that wants to raise or that hasn't been raised before?
Yeah, I'd like to make a suggestion, Ms. Von Roche. This is Hazel again. I'd like to make a suggestion that we set a date to meet on this issue, because what's happened is that the committee, just like Mr. Henderson, and I don't want to reiterate what he said, but he said it very eloquently and he spoke very passionately about the position that the SLA has put us in. So one of the things that we sent you all as our committee Christmas greeting, if you will, that we tried to allow ourselves to work through the spirit of active participation. That has not been done, you know. And personally, I feel as though that, you know, we're being bullied by the agency. I'm just going to say it. There's no other word for me to try to describe it. You know what I'm saying? We're all we're all adults. Excuse me, of the age to where we can understand the art of agreeing to disagree. And we can also be able to think about ways that, you know, you guys, the agency, can help better manage the program and how we as the BVC can assist you in that. So it's interesting that all these other BVCs that came after us, they have not even been as active as we are. And the last thing I want to say is this. We're going through a really turbulent time right now, going through these hearings and stuff like that, but the people who are actually stealing the money, they're not going through anything. So we feel like we're criminalized. We feel as though that, you know, we're not being heard because we're pointing out things in the program that are glaring inconsistencies. I mean, glaring inconsistencies. And the agency, for whatever reason, like Mr. Henderson reiterated, you're not wanting to talk about those things. And we need to really sit down and have that fireside chat, that heart-to-heart conversation about how we can fix the program. That's all I have to say.
And I have something else to say. I would like to say that all of us vendors know the rules and regulations of the program, and we know there's things that we should do and shouldn't do. So when a vendor steps out of those rules and regulations, then they have to be something done. I'm not saying it has to be harsh or whatever, but I'm just saying it shouldn't be slapped aside and say, okay, we'll do this, do that. And another thing I like to say, the BVC is governed by bylaws. We have been trying to get the bylaws for the BVC for I don't know how long. We haven't been able to get them. Ms. Von Roach, can you look into that?
Sure, I can search through documentation to see what I have on hand for the BVC bylaws. I'm just surprised to hear this, that when you were elected in, that bylaws were not given to you. And, you know, this was
We
over
tried.
like,
We tried to get them.
oh yeah, this was like over a year ago. So, but
None
yes,
of the
We
BVCs
asked,
had
I
them.
have
None of the
no,
BVCs.
yeah, I have no problem with looking through, you know, the documents that were passed on to me to see if I can find some BVC bylaws. And that's what I've been doing, is like searching through documentation for pertinent information. But yes, yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Miss Sharon,
It was
I'm not.
promised by Andy, not by Andy Reese, but by Daryl Evans when he left. He promised us that day that he swore us in that he was going to send us that information.
Miss
Okay.
Sharon, I see a hand up.
Who's that? Oh, Charlize.
Samaya. I'm sorry.
Actually, that's for Jerome Walker. A friend is helping me participate today.
Okay.
I have a question for Ms. Von Roach, but before that, I'd like to make a couple of statements. And they are that I'm encouraged by the help that we're giving or getting. The lady, Ms. Green, who spoke earlier, I think one of our last meetings, we spoke to a financial person and got some information that was very valuable to us and meaningful to us. My assessing what has happened to us and why we're in this position is because we went over 2 years without a program manager. So I'm encouraged because we seemingly are getting people on board that can correct some of that. So my question to you, Ms. Von Roach, And I'm gonna share also where this question comes from. When I came in the program 10 years ago, we met with the program manager and a lot of things that we went over and we learned from her and her staff. That doesn't happen anymore, or it hasn't happened anymore. But one of the things I remember most in those sessions was she told us, or said to us, that um, part of her position and the agency's position overall was to help and assist us blind vendors in being successful. And that's been very hard over the last 3 years because of the agency and not having proper or enough people to assist us in that way. So my question would be to you, Ms. Roach, how do you see your job as it relates to us? Or she said that, she thought assisting us become successful was her number one position in her job. How do you feel about that?
I think that was a great statement from the person who shared that with you. There are things that have risen to my eyesight, if you will, on things that need to be honed in on. So in order to to assist the vendors, there needs to be a great working relationship, first and foremost, with the program monitors in each one of the vendors, and also GSA. And the way to do that is to strengthen and regularly have this is what I call them, it might be known by something else, but the performance evaluations that the program monitors provide with the vendors, and looking at what actually is being done, looking at the the operators' agreements to make sure that everybody's in compliance with those, to put out there what trainings and what opportunities, and knowing that technology is the wave of the future and what's going on, and listening to the program monitors to help with the vendors being successful. It
I
does
don't know.
not, may I finish? You asked the question. So this is my observation. It's like, if the program monitors are taking the time to work with the vendors to say, hey, I notice this is the best way to do things. What do you think? And then if a vendor automatically blocks it, it's not going to help in the succession or the vendor's operations being successful. So I'm just saying that it just takes everybody to have an open mind for change and making things work better for the vendors. So, Mr. Walker, to answer your question, yes, I fully support providing assistance to helping the blind vendors being successful, but not being stuck in the old ways of doing things, or not being open to new technology and things. So I'm going to give you something that's very, very crucial. Something that I said 6 months ago. Why isn't everybody on the new POS systems? It makes no sense for us to be throwing money at things that have been broken, or people fear change. What it does is it accounts for every transaction. It makes it easier for the vendors to account for all of the sales and all of the revenues, so that is something that I would like to see. Let's go to all of the 19 vendors, all of the facilities. What have you been using? How soon can we get these new POS systems in to help you be successful? So I know I'm being redundant in saying this, but everybody has to talk to each other and listen to, hey, I want to propose this. This is the reason why. So I hope, I know I was being long-winded, but hopefully, Mr. Walker, you understand that, yes, I do support, and efforts in order for you guys to be successful.
Thank you, Ms. Rose.
Ms. Von Roach, um, we don't mind your long-windedness. So, do talk the way you need to talk. But, when it comes to trying to get everybody to agree, we can't get everybody to agree that the sky is blue,
Mhm.
So sometimes, it seems like our vendors are split in half.
Mhm.
And it seems that some of them have and some of them have not. And basically, that's what we're trying our best to eliminate. But if some people are going to be heard and other people are going to be ignored or not heard, then basically we need SLA, the leadership, to recognize that there are problems, and you guys are very smart. You guys can help us find where our problems lie and help change things, turn them around, we have to communicate, we have to talk, we have to get an understanding, and we have to recognize what the problems really are. And we have to get these vendors unified. We have to come together and we have to agree on things unanimously or majority. And we got to make some changes because our program needs it, and you guys need us to basically come together and do things better. And we need you guys to hear us and try to help us do better.
I totally agree with what you are saying 100%. And like I can just say from my perspective, to have things documented so we can go back and actually look at what is happening at one facility compared to the next is our best move forward. Because to just say, and I'm just speaking from my perspective, vendor X has done X, vendor Y does it this way or whatever, but to have these monthly evaluations and we go back and look at this and say, hey, why is this procedure done 4 different ways? No, this is wrong. It should be done one way, and here's the most efficient way. And then present that to all of the vendors and say, hey, look, this is the way it's going to go, going forward. And I bring up the POS system because that is something that has been bothering me ever since I've started 6 months ago. Why are we allowing everybody to account for their sales in all of these different ways when it's been proven that, and I'm sorry, but Mr. Romero, I am going to bring you up. You have been using a POS system from day one, and it works for you. And if it can work for you, someone who is totally sight impaired, it makes no reason why everybody else can't use this system. There are no excuses. So you don't want me to get on my soap opera box here, but Mr. Walker touched upon something that I totally support. We've got to find ways, and there are things that we can implement, that everybody can use. So saving this for another time, I totally agree with, yes, let's everybody get on the same page. There should be no reason why we all can't be on the same page to make the Randolph-Shepherd program a success going forward.
Yes, my last comment would be, Ms. Brown Roach, which is very important, and you stated it as it relates to the monitors. When I first came in the program, being a new vendor in the same should be 10 years later. I look forward to my monitor coming to visit me because it helped me to stay in compliance and to make my business successful. Over the last few years, that seemed to have turned around where some of us, if not most of us, don't look forward to those monitors coming because we think when they come, we're going to be in trouble or something bad happens when they come.
And yeah, like my snack bar been sitting unfinished for the last 9 or 10 months. Why haven't I got what I'm supposed to be getting? People are coming back, customers are coming back to work. So sometimes I think, Ms. Von Roach, you have to work with your monitors a little bit more to do things that they say they're going to do or whatever, and it never gets done.
And I'll add this, that our monitors are supposed to help us be better entrepreneurs, to be successful, not to think that or act like we're their employees, that they're to boss us around or to bully us or talk down to us, that we're human beings, that we want to be respected. We want to be talked to the way we should be talked to and communicated with. And, to be able to advise us and to help us, lead us, and suggest things, and not just come down on us and act like we got to do what they say. Motivate us. That should be a part of their duties or job, and get along with us and not just boss us around like some monitors do. That's all I want to say.
No, I appreciate you sharing that information. I do not take kindly to disrespect. I mean, I think what you know of me, you all know of me for the 6 months I've been here. That's just something that I don't tolerate from anybody. And I hear you. So, okay, well,
This is Jessie. May I say one thing? When
yes,
you mentioned the PO system,
yes.
unfortunately, I'm not sure I can have it at bowling. I have the kiosk where everybody comes, so all my sales are documented. But what I do need is a tiny, small cash register, because of the fact that when that PO system go down, all I'm dealing with is my brain and a calculator. And I've been asking for this for over a year, and I have not gotten it. My system was down for over a week. I had nothing to work with but a calculator.
Mine is broken too, and my employee fixed it with some old keys or something other. So we have to open the drawer underneath and all that. And I've been asking for one for, oh my God, several months too.
And of course, I can't open my store because I don't have a cash register. And you had me under this corrective action thing. You nailed me to the wall with it. And come to find out, you guys have not done your part of what you need to do, but yet hold us out, or me out particularly, in a situation that is not even my control. And while you're talking about the ways that we can use the POS system. Why don't we have a centralized way to pay our levy where we don't have to send in a check or nothing like that? So you're talking about automation. There should be something where we should be able to just, go on a link or whatever and pay it. Why can't we do that?
Okay, well, I'm writing down all the suggestions and, I'm taking it all in.
And may I say one more thing,
Okay.
Ms. Van Roach? I'm sorry.
Yes.
I don't know if it was touched on because I had to walk away for a few minutes. Regarding the levy payments, I know you talked about they have to be in at the end of the month, but if you have vendors who's not receiving their vending commission on time and they rely on those vending commission to pay a portion of their levy and their bills, are they going to eat first or pay you the levy?
Okay, so I'll be working with Nicole, and we will be looking at the timing of levy payments, commissions going out, and all that. So again, I'm
Ms.
taking
Van
the notes.
Roach, can you check?
Thank you.
Can you check that Zoom? Because I was muted out too. I heard it say you are now muted. It maybe it's the Zoom or something.
I'm not muting anyone. I'm sure Charlisa is not muting anyone.
Oh, I heard it say. I heard it say you are now muted, and I didn't know it had muted me, and I kept trying to say something, so I had to get on another phone. I'm on
Okay.
another phone, but I'm just
Okay.
saying maybe you could check it out. Maybe it's something going on that you don't know. I mean,
Okay.
with the computer,
All right. Well, I appreciate all of the comments. I will look into this technology thing, but our time has approached us, and thank you again for attending the training / the BVC meeting. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you so much.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.